Welcome to the Quick Stop F1 podcast. My name is Nyasha, and you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. We appreciate that. Joining me today is someone who supported us from day dot. I can't believe she's here. We have fashion, beauty, just general bad boy journalist on the podcast today. She's in her F1 bag now. You can't stop her. Shout out to... Fuck me, that is loud. Shout out to the one and only India. How's it going? Yay!
I can't believe I'm like witnessing, you know, the intro in person, like live while it's happening. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure. So right now, for those who don't know, because you're multifaceted, you're not just putting yourself in one pigeonhole. You're here, you're there, you're everywhere. Who are you, and why are you awesome? Because you're awesome.
Thank you. So I'm India. I'm currently a freelance writer at the moment. I've written for places like Nylon and Architectural Digest and Teen Vogue and all of these amazing places. And I usually cover fashion, but you know, right now I'm kind of just writing about pretty much anything from fashion to music to culture and F1 and home decor. So it's just been really fun to kind of experiment with different types of beats and topics. So
yeah. And no, it's been super dope. And I think for us, it was really cool for you to enlist us to help you write an article last year, I believe, about Formula One and I guess the kind of cult kind of like fandom of Formula One, which was awesome. I think it was one of our first kind of like magazine kind of features, I guess. And then even this year you've put us in Nylon magazine for is it 9? Is it 9, 8 or 9? 9, 10? How many? I can't remember how many podcasts were on that list.
I forgot to. I'm not gonna lie.
It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry. There's loads of other people on there. Look, I know it wasn't like a 1 to 10 kind of thing, but we were the first ones mentioned. So I'm gonna give a round of applause to us for being number one. That's just how it goes. That's how it goes, guys. Number one in the streets and in the sheets, aka magazine. So thank you. But before I get into all of that, thank you guys at home for watching. If you are watching, make sure to give us a 5-star review on Spotify. Make sure to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you want an ad-free stream, we have a Patreon right down there below. You can get an ad-free stream, extra content, and there is a whole new exclusive merch thing on there as well. India.
Yes.
So India. So look, obviously how we know each other is through F1. So I guess for you, how long have you been into F1? I guess how did you get into F1?
Honestly, I would say for like a year now. So it was honestly since I started working on that article with you guys, that first article about the cult fandom. And pretty much how I got into it was because I started seeing like a lot of editors specifically like starting to post a lot about it, but I just didn't have time in that, you know, in that kind of time last year. I didn't really have the energy to like 100% invest into it until one day, like I started seeing like F1 started popping up in the articles that I was writing. I was a fashion writer at Nylon at the time. And so I was writing about Valentino and I was like writing about a campaign that they did. And I saw Lewis Hamilton and I was like, yeah, okay, I keep seeing F1. So I pitched our culture editor and I was like, has anyone like pitched you about F1 before? If so, like, you know, I would love to just write about like this cult fandom because it seems like their fans are like insane. I would love to write about it. And so that whole reporting process, you know, me reaching out to you and like Red Flags podcast and, you know, that whole like reporting process took me on like a spiral and like a rabbit hole into F1. And so by the time that piece came out, and by the time like I was, already done with everything, I became obsessed with the sport. And so I was like, okay, like now that was like a perfect segue into it. And I think ever since then, I was surprised at how much I got into it. And, after that, I just kept writing about F1 for nylon specifically. And then eventually other people started asking me, like, started noticing and being like, hey, do you want to write this for us? Or like, okay, I see that you're obsessed with Lewis and like this sport. So it's just been really incredible, the opportunities that have come out of it. And just like, yeah, I genuinely love the sport because I can't say that I'm a sports person, but I love F1.
It's crazy, right? Like I would wholeheartedly agree in that obviously I've been watching Formula One since fuck me a long time. I'd say 96 was my first full season, so it's going to be nearly 20 years in a few years. Wowzers! But I obviously, it was one of those things where I was on my own and I watched it a lot on my own, right? And even when I was on Twitter, I always say the reason why we have the podcast is because I had all these thoughts about F1 and I was tweeting it out on my main account and I was getting ignored. And in fact, the only person who replied was Tandy. I was like, fine, do you want to start a podcast? And we started the podcast. And it wasn't until I started the podcast that I realized that, it is very cult-like. Look, we get called Cult LH, when we made fun of it at our live show, and it is kind of true. It is kind of true. Like it is a bit of a cult, but in like a really, I think the word cult gets used obviously in like negative ways, but I think how connected people are to their drivers, how knowledge and the way that they connect through their drivers to the sport, that must have been quite an interesting thing for you to come across, especially I guess as someone who's not into any sport whatsoever.
No, for sure. I think like I don't want to compare them to like K-pop stans, but like it was kind
no, they are. They are. Let's be honest.
Yeah, the energy of like Formula One fans reminded me a lot of K-pop stans. Like they were super passionate about their teams and like their drivers that they were like really into, and I felt that was interesting compared to other sports because I mean like. We see like soccer fans and like we see basketball fans and like, yeah, like I see them, but there's nothing like Formula One fans in my opinion. And like, I think especially coming from the States, like motorsports isn't that big of a thing just yet. Like, people go to IndyCar and like people watch NASCAR here and there, but like, it's not something that like is talked about on a daily basis. And I think now with F1, the rise of F1 in the States, along with, Drive to Survive and everything, like it's becoming more and more of a thing. And since it is such a niche in the States, more people are like overly passionate about it because they're like, I like low-key discovered this cool thing that no one else knows. So they're gonna be more passionate about, trying to, getting into it. And also you probably have like some longtime European fans who are kind of like gatekeeping and being even more like passionate about like keeping their baby to themselves. So it's just like a really interesting dynamic that I haven't seen with other sports as of late. So that's kind of why I wanted to highlight Formula One, as in as many outlets as I possibly can. And I think that's why I continuously, fascinated and like immersed in the sport just because like it is so interesting and it's not like any other sport that I've come across.
It's not. It's so interesting. Like the K-pop thing. I remember being on Twitter. This is so bad. But like the first fan cam that I saw, I'll never forget it, was a Malcolm X fan cam. And I remember watching this fan cam like a million times. I was like, this is hilarious. But the level of editing on this is fucking insane. And then I went kind of like researched fan. I was like, what the fuck is a fan cam? And research fan cams. And then obviously going back to like K-pop and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, this is really fucking cool. And then and I think a lot of people ask like how we grew Quickstop F1. I think a big reason of how we grew Cult of F1 is because we kind of tapped into that. And I think we were probably, if I'm going to be honest, the first podcast to really kind of tap into that kind of culture in F1 with these fan cams and kind of editing our stuff to be like fan cams, which I think is now kind of like industry standard. But that really did help us to grow and to get new fans. So it's quite cool hearing you say that.
Yeah, and you know, I was a huge K-pop fan, and like, you know, even when I was like in middle school, high school, like I was kind of there like in K-pop Twitter when it like first blew up. So I kind of saw like the evolution of like the fandom kind of evolve. Like it's not it went from like, you know, I don't know, it's just really hard to describe it, but I think with K-pop fans, it's just like this over investment in like all facets of like this idol's life, from like what they eat, when they sleep, like the songs that they sing, the clothes that they wear, the color of their hair, like everything about, you know, a group or like a specific person, they hyper focus on, and like the amount of support and the loyalty that, you know, K-pop fans have to like their specific groups or whoever, like it's so intense. And I feel, you know, to see that when I was younger, like kind of emerge, and then now seeing it become such a norm, and seeing it, you know, influence and impact other fandoms from F1 to, you know, music, other musicians and stuff, like it's insane, like that kind of, you know, that impact that K-pop fans have.
No, it's a big impact, and I think it's super dope. And I guess, you know, whenever F1 is mentioned online, you know, whenever, you know, if like a brand does like an F1 style tweet, you'll see like their engagement go up incredibly. There's an airplane brand, there's a airplane company. What do you call flight companies? What are they called? Like
airlines?
Airlines! Oh my god! Oh my god! There's an airline called Ryanair. There's an airline called Ryanair, which is basically like, I think your version of, is it Sprint or Sprite? Spirit, like budget.
Spirit Airlines.
Spirit, thank you. Right, yeah. It's your version of Spirit Airlines. So in Europe, we have loads of them. We love that shit. Like, get me on a flight for £9. I don't care if there's anything. But there's, you know, in America, you guys are a bit more bougie than us. Okay. And also, I think you guys have to fly a bit longer. Like, for us, going to like Italy is like an hour and a half, 2 hours, whereas obviously you guys going from one state to another could be like hours on end, so you want comfort. I get it. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So Ryanair had this period where they were just constantly referencing F1 to like whatever, and their numbers would just go insane. Do you get that with your articles? Do you find when you write articles about F1, the numbers on it are just more, I guess obviously like compared to like, I guess when you're just writing about fashion brands or architecture or whatever, like do you see the kind of levels that it kind of reaches?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like there's something so interesting about F1 being written right now, because if you're not a sports writer, like if you're not with like a sports publication, or if you're not a part of like a subsection like a GQ Sports or something, in magazines, there's hardly anyone writing about F1 except for me and one other editor who I went to Italy with recently. So it's just literally only us two who are kind of writing about F1 in this like editorial, especially like fashion kind of space. And so like I realized throughout the, you know, the year or so that I've been writing about F1 that a lot of people care about it. And even like if you're posting about it like on socials, like on TikTok or something, you can literally see like the views just like skyrocket. Like I think I post something during Fashion Week this past season on my just like on my personal account of like Nick DeVries, like behind the scenes of Nick DeVries like making a TikTok for AlphaTauri, and like literally I got like I haven't even checked the views lately, but it was like over 10,000 views.
Yeah.
And I was just like, even just that, I was like, I had no intentions of this going viral, or like, not that it went viral, but like getting that many.
No, but having, exactly.
Yeah,
No, of
so
course.
I think a lot of people, it's just like really interesting to see that like a lot of people care, and like a lot of people are interested to see F1 kind of infiltrate, you know, more mainstream. Like I had no idea that Nylon would want me to write about F1 so much until they asked me. They're like, can you write more about this sport? Since you're the only person we know who like knows anything about it. So it's insane, like the readership of Formula One. Yeah.
That is like, it's really, I think it's really cool that we, as a community, I just feel proud. Like, you know, as much as I get annoyed by this community, you know, especially when they're being mean or they're calling me mean names, whatever. But it is such a fertile community. And I think it's actually, like you say, like, it's cool that there is so many little subsections, and it's cool that there's like this, it's engaged more than a lot of things. Before I ask you about fashion and F1, we're going to play you some messages from our sponsors. We'll be back right after this. Yay! Right. And remember, if you want an ad-free stream, all you got to do, sign up to our Patreon for the price of a coffee every month. You can have all of this without a single advert in there. India.
Yes.
You are someone who's got F1 knowledge and fashion knowledge. The intersection between the two, I could go on about this all day. This is the type of shit I love. I guess let's talk about it from an editorial point of view. What is it about fashion and F1 then that is, I guess, that works from an editorial point of view?
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many like pockets of F1 and the intersection of fashion. I would say there's kind of like two main things that I noticed. So like, the first thing I noticed is that the rise, or like this reemergence of like biker core, meaning like, you know, like the leather jackets to like, you know, like the leather and these like really like, I'm like at a loss for words right now. I'm sorry. I'm like super tired.
No, that's fine.
Like these little trends, you know, reemerge, and
even like the motorcore stuff as well, right?
Exactly. So like, there's like so many intersections between like biker core and like motocross and like motorcore, and just like people dressing up. I don't know if it's like, you know, it's been expedited by like, you know, TikTok, because TikTok always expedites all these like little trends and these like micro trends or whatever. But especially with motorcore, I wrote a lot about motorcore, and to me, motorcore means like, you know, F1's influence on fashion. So like the vintage like Ferrari jackets, which I've seen so many people wear in New York, and even when I was in Italy, so many people have Ferrari.
Crazy. It's crazy. Guys, don't spend £100 plus on these jackets. I beg you. Like, don't do it. They're on eBay. Get them off eBay. Whoever's selling them to you for like 3 times the price they're getting them, don't buy them. But anyway,
it's crazy. Like I've seen people in New York like have like their Red Bull caps and like McLaren and stuff. So it's like, it's really like, if you know kind of fashion. And so I've been seeing that happen. And like even celebrities like Bella Hadid and like Dua Lipa wearing like these super chic like leather jackets that remind you of like the racetrack. And then the second thing that I
saw
noticed,
Kim wearing some like motorsport related stuff as well. Yeah,
exactly. And the second thing that I noticed about F1 fashion is obviously like the rise of like the driver fashion as well. I think Lewis Hamilton really did have a hand in, you know, pioneering that kind of movement of like, you're not just an athlete and you're not just a driver, you are a celebrity. And being a celebrity means that you are visible, and like your street style is important. The fashion shows that you attend, you're sitting front row, you know, like everything is like a fashion moment for you. And so I think Lewis Hamilton really like brought that up. And so now we're seeing a lot of other drivers on their grid who are kind of trying to not only be super fashionable, but also trying to make themselves unique and not just be an F1 driver, but to kind of be this like well-rounded celebrity. So that's like another like aspect to fashion that I investigated as well.
Yeah, no, it's cool, right? Because it's crazy, you know, the things that if you ask the average fan, like, you know, there's a great story about Lewis Hamilton when he was launching his Tommy line in 2018. Before, I think me and Mario were discussing this the other day, before Singapore. All of this talk, he'd been to New York, he'd been to China, was he going to have his head in the game? And then he comes and he absolutely smashes it on the track. And I think since then there's never been this question of, can an F1 driver have outside interest? And especially when it comes to fashion, I think you're looking at all of these drivers looking to build themselves as brands, right? Like they are not just, like I say, these drivers, they are brands, and they are brands that other brands can tack onto. And you know, it's even Charles Leclerc, I remember in season 1 of Drive to Survive, that Ferrari were in, Charles Leclerc wanting to start his own fashion brand, and Seb Vettel being like, oh no, they won't let you do it because Ferrari, like, you know, we've got our own sponsors and stuff like that. But it just shows that, you know, these are things that they've always wanted to do, and Lewis has always been at the forefront of that. How do you see, I guess, within these micro trends that we're seeing right now, obviously, the way that, what I wanted to ask was, is it something that you're seeing more and more in terms of like independent merch, right? Like, you know, obviously we have merch, other people have merch, but this kind of, I think maybe it is because of the TikTok thing, and that way that content creators can have that kind of like direct to consumer kind of marketing or whatever. But the kind of increase in kind of merch-led fashion, I mean, is that the same? I've seen it in F1 go up incredibly, but is that, I guess, the same in music, for example? Like, you know, it's always kind of been like a constant kind of thing. But I guess, yeah, your thoughts on just, I guess, independent F1 merch.
Yeah, no, I have been seeing a lot of F1 merch come about, and it's not even, you know, of course, like drivers will have like their own merch line. Like, I think just about every driver has their own collection at this point. Like, that's expected because actually this is something that I'm writing currently in the article that I talked to you guys about recently.
Hold on. Let me don't piss me off. We're out here. Some of you men aren't in articles. That's okay. We are. Constantly.
But essentially, so yeah, it's crazy because it's not even just like independent drivers having their merch line, but I'm also seeing it like with brands and retailers. So yeah, PacSun is one that like recently launched an F1 line, and it's so good and is always sold out, which is insane. You know, I've seen like, I think Abercrombie had like a McLaren t-shirt line. Actually, I bought a McLaren shirt just to have it. You know, and like, there's like so many like people sending me like emails of like pitches every day, like PR agencies. And they're like, okay, we're teamed up with this F1 team for like a t-shirt collection. And we teamed up with this person for like F1 merch. And it's like really insane, like the impact of like F1 in fashion. I think now more than ever, like retailers are starting to realize that F1 has so much money circulating. Like, there's so much money in the sport. And so like they're definitely going to like tap this niche sport because they have so many loyal fans who are gonna buy these $300 t-shirts and like these $1,000 sunglasses just because it has like their favorite team attached to it. And even if it's not their favorite team, it's like, okay, this is F1. We're finally seeing F1 fashion. I'm just gonna buy it just to have it. Like me with this McLaren shirt, I was like, I just want this t-shirt to have. So we're seeing it a lot more like happening. So for sure.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely incredible, and I think like. What were your thoughts on Lewis's the new Tommy Hilfiger range that just came out? We saw it emblazoned absolutely everywhere in Miami. George was wearing it, Mick was wearing it, obviously Lewis was wearing it as well. Yeah, what did you think of it?
I mean, I would say in terms of like sartorial, like how it is, like how it's crafted sartorially, I think it's like, you know, what I expected. I didn't expect, it's not that, I don't want to say it's that it wasn't anything special, but it was like, okay, this is what I expected from, you know, Tommy Hilfiger and Mercedes. Like, it was like clean cut, straight to the point, very expensive. Am I going to buy it? I'm sorry, I don't have money for that. But I think more than anything, I think what people don't realize or talk about enough is like how clothes are advertised. So like, it's not even just like the clothes itself, but it was like how they were taking pictures of the drivers wearing it. Like it was literally entire photo shoots. Like even Mick with his pretty blue eyes, like wearing this like white shirt. I'm like, it's not even, I think like the thing with these campaigns is that they're tapping into like the fans' admiration for individual drivers. Okay, that was what I was going to talk about when I mentioned that I spoke with you for an article coming out, is that
oh yeah, sorry, I took you off because I wanted to talk, and I want to talk my shit.
You're all good, but it relates to this because I wrote a sentence talking about how it's with the thing with F1 is like it's not just about standing a team, because you know, like when it comes to like soccer or other teams, not to say that people don't, you know, stand individual players, but like it's the team that makes, you know, they contribute to the greater good. It's like that collaborative effort. Whereas with F1, it's like you're competing against not only your other teammate, like your other teammate is your rival, but also like you're also competing with like your past accomplishments and like your past success. So it's like, for example, let's say like Lewis Hamilton. Like Lewis Hamilton isn't just a Mercedes driver. He's also like competing against George Russell, and he's also competing against his like past accomplishments to like do better. And so I think like hitting that mark on like, okay, like because fans are so invested in individual drivers and everything that they do more than like compared to other sports, I think this collection and just like F1 collections in general, like tap into that, like the fans' affinity for the drivers, like having these super interesting and kind of weird, like photo shoots and like these weird, like the way that F1 posts about their drivers as well is very niche in itself and very interesting. It's like they're tapping into this like low-key, I don't want to say K-pop, but like kind of like
it is though,
but like how like idol groups post every day all the time, like how they interact with their fans. That's what I'm seeing in F1. And so like that's what I kind of think when I think about these F1 like merch lines, is that they're tapping into that infinity. And as long as they keep that going, that more people are gonna like be invested in it and like wanting to like buy this product, even if it is $300, $400, $500. So yeah, it is crazy. It is crazy. And I think what that is just, it's just brands. Look, I've said this about, I think Mercedes were probably the first team to like tap into the way that the fans talk to each other and the memes that we share and the jokes that we share, and the Mercedes admin lurks amongst us and then, you know, kind of recalibrates that for the, you know, the main account, and then they get those, you know, I think, you know, even the other day I think they shaded Lando Norris with, you know, the George Russell race winner kind of thing. Like, do you know what I mean? And like, all of those kind of things, they, you know, and I think that's, for sure. Ferrari, you look at Ferrari social media, they're posting pictures of Carlos and Charles like in the ice bath, half naked, like every 2 business weeks. Like, we know why. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Keep it coming. They're so handsome. They're gorgeous. But I'm just saying, they're so gorgeous. It's annoying. Do you know what I mean? Some of us grew up beautifully challenged. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't quite making it there. I had to develop a personality.
Okay. I wish I was as handsome as those two. And they're talented. They're fucking F1 drivers. How much do you want? Anyway, look, that's my weekly trauma dump on you. Sorry, India. No, for sure. And I think it's super dope to see where that is going. Speaking of going somewhere, this is my segue. So look, you were, let's say initially, obviously, lucky enough to be given a brief to go to Italy, specifically to go to Emilia Romagna area, Imola, for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, which was scheduled to be last week. And obviously, given everything that's happening in the region, the race was postponed. I guess from your point of view, that you going out there and I guess seeing firsthand and experiencing, I guess being able to witness the devastation that had happened, I guess, give us like an eyewitness account, or just, I guess, your account of what would have been. Are you in New York?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, fire was distracting me. I was like, oh my goodness.
No, I live in Tottenham, and honestly, like the fire, like I used to live like on an ambulance, next to an ambulance thing, and I would just hear like sirens every 2 minutes. Like, guys, you're embarrassing me. But no, yeah, like I guess give us like your experience of being in Italy at that period, and especially being in that region, because that must have been crazy for you, man.
Oh my god, like, yeah, I think I don't even know where to begin with that. Like, I mean,
yeah, it's a very broad question. Sorry,
it was crazy. So I would say first off, like, the fact that F1 is able to take me places and take me around the globe, even like I think my first F1 trip was Austin last year.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I'm having opportunities to like travel for F1, which is like my side interest, has been so like amazing, and like I've been so grateful. And so yeah, I missed out on Miami Grand Prix because don't want to talk about it. The brand kind of like canceled day off, I guess, or told me that they canceled day off. So wasn't able to go to Miami, unfortunately, but I was excited to go to Italy. And so it was me and one other editor who's really huge into F1. She's great. And so we traveled to Milan. We landed in Milan, and, from what we originally saw in the beginning, like on the weather app, we just saw that it was going to be like raining, like light showers or like thunderstorms here and there. And we were, in our minds, we were like, oh, okay, like it's just going to be gloomy all week, but like whatever. And it wasn't until we landed in Milan and we met up with the brand that was taking us to F1 that we realized like the extent of the rain and like the water, because the driver, he was our Italian driver who's gonna drive like 2-3 hours to the hotel we were staying at. His house in that region was completely flooded, so he was rushing to like drop us off so he can like go to his family home. And on our way to like the hotel, by the time we were there in the village, we saw like the bridge completely flooded, like everyone's home like down the hill was like flooded, completely flooded. Like I would say like it was past the first floor of people's homes. Like it was insane. And so like the hotel we were staying at, like I really, really commend them because, we were safe. We were like on top of this hill, but we didn't know how long we were going to be safe because, our electricity got cut off by the second day. Food was running out. People couldn't leave or like really come into the hotel. And so we were just kind of like, okay, well, our phones are dying. We kind of need to figure out our next steps. Like we were just really like panicked. And so luckily, this is such a crazy story when I think about it. But so the brand that flew us out was P448, which is like an Italian footwear brand. And so they officially sponsor, or like they officially work with AlphaTauri this season for like their official sneakers. And so it was the
Yeah.
like original founder. He has no hand in this company anymore, but he drove hours to come get us from this hotel,
Wow.
and we like went to his like olive farm, and it was lovely.
Oh wow.
And he like saved us. Like we were stranded and we had no idea. Like the pure person that we were with had never met this man before, but like they literally like saved us and fed us and made sure we were okay. And that's pretty much how we were able to get out of that situation. And then from there, we were able to just go to Milan and kind of enjoy the rest of the time that we had, quote unquote, like
Yeah.
enjoy while we can. But, we got really lucky because, we were hearing other visitors at the hotel who were coming in for different reasons. And, people were stuck in like their cars and people were like getting helicoptered out. And people were saying like, yeah, it was just crazy. Like people woke up to like the sound of mudslides. Like it was like scary to think that like that we were so close to that devastation. And when we were driving through to get to the olive farm, we also saw like the entire village just flooded completely.
Yeah.
Like it was really devastating.
No, it's pardon me. So happy to hear that. Obviously, you guys got out, and I think what was crazy about last week was that, I'll be honest, I hadn't really heard too much about the flooding until we started to talk about the race. Like it wasn't like, I think I'd seen that. I think I'd maybe like, if I wasn't into F1, like no one on my non-F1 timeline has spoken about the flooding. Like it was not something that was kind of like common news. And even like on the day of maybe like Tuesday, Wednesday, a lot of the pictures people were showing were pictures of the track, and they're like, "Wow, look at the track! The track is, the track is flooded. How are they going to have a race here, right?" And it wasn't really talking about. It was more the threat of rain coming down, and would they be able to dry the track, and so forth. It wasn't until like people started kind of saying like, no, the whole area is flooded, like seriously flooded. I think Mario's put a quote in it just to kind of give people like the seriousness of it, and I quote, the Deputy Governor of Emilia Romagna, Irene Pirolo, said 8 people were killed and others unaccounted for in flooding that forced the evacuation of more than 10,000 people. It's crazy that F1 was considering going there, and that it got to a stage where people had parked their, things in the place. But I guess it kind of shows like it must have been bad for F1. A company that notoriously tried to race on through COVID, that, no matter where you fall on like the political spectrum, the issues in Saudi Arabia last year were crazy in their own right, no matter, how you view what happened on that day. For them to kind of take a look at it and cancel it that quick, kind of shows how serious that flooding must have been in that area.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like, like no one, at least on my timeline, was talking about it, but they knew about it because I was tweeting about it and posting on my Instagram being like, I'm stuck in this flood. So yeah, this is pretty serious. And I think, that's why I was telling you earlier, I think before we started recording, is that I don't think people understand or still don't understand like how insane that flood is, because like, I would say, by Tuesday, by Wednesday, like the whole area was flooded, and like that. And like to also add context, that is like the most rainfall that area has ever received. That was completely unprecedented. And the thing about that region specifically is that the water has nowhere to go. So if it's raining all week, I think it's raining there still this week too, this upcoming week. This week. So, if they're raining 2 weeks straight, there's nowhere that this water can go. So all the water is going to do is just continue to like accumulate and like go downhill, and just like build up. And so I still really feel bad for like the people who are there, the people who have been displaced. Feel bad for the people at the hotel that we were staying at, because the employees were also so scared and afraid because they didn't know like what would happen next and like how they were going to leave. Like they couldn't, it's not that they could clock out because no one else could come into work and they can't leave. So they were just like stuck there. And it was just like, yeah, I think to experience that, like I never have been through a natural disaster before. So I think to experience that, it was really overwhelming for me personally. And I did break down a few times just because I was like, this trip, and this was my first international trip, I want to say, like this is my first time out the country.
Oh, really? Oh, so, man.
For this to be my first time out the country, I was just like, what the fuck? So it was just like a lot of emotions that I was feeling, but mainly just like devastation and feeling really bad for like the people who were also like affected, because we were lucky. I mean, like we were staying at this really nice hotel and like eating good, and like we don't live there, but like to think about the people who live there and like whose homes are completely destroyed, their crops are destroyed, like they have nowhere to go. I think that to me like really got to me while I was in Italy, just thinking about that.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? Obviously, look, for a lot of people, their kind of their sympathy kind of starts and ends with, you know, obviously the F1 kind of disrupted, and you know, of course we can't go there because, you know, this is bad and it's so awful, and you go, and that's fine, but we have to remember, like you say, like these are people's lives, like possessions gone. I had my roof cave in one day whilst I was away, and it flooded. It rained and it flooded, and my computer was gone, my laptop was gone, like, and that was one small thing, like in one, like during, but which fucking affected me, but that was one tiny thing which I kind of realized, like, fuck, like shit's gone. These people, like their whole, like I say, houses fucked, you know, for life. Crops, if your farmer's gone, like, you know, in terms of like your livelihood gone. All of the businesses that operate in those areas, all of the people that operate in those areas. It's just, yeah, it's really sad. So, definitely wanted to. I don't know if you saw the videos of AlphaTauri and Yuki helping to clear up in there, which was really cool, man. Like, it must have been really cool to see that.
Yeah. So we were with P448, and we were also like going to interview and speak with, you know, the AlphaTauri drivers and everyone. Like we were going to be in like the garage and stuff. And so, you know, we were seeing these videos of Yuki helping out, and, you know, we saw Nick, you know, stuck in the flood as well. Like I think it was, you know, crazy to see that, you know, the drivers were also going through this terrible devastation, but to see, you know, people like Yuki help out was really nice. Also, I think it was not funny, but also just very interesting to see how like disconnected people are from reality and from their like lobe in their brain when they were saying stuff like, where is Lewis, you know, during all of this? Why is Lewis going to these lavish events? But he's here cleaning up the devastation. And me and the other editor we were with, we were like, babes, he wasn't even in the region. No one could get out or get in. Like, what do you expect him to do? I think that was just
crazy.
So annoying to see. Yeah.
It was crazy. Like it's crazy because we actually had, me and Tasha had the conversation literally like the day before about, is F1 press racist? People using anti-Lewis Hamilton headlines to start clickbait stuff, and then literally the next day there was all of these fucking that headline about Lewis attended a lavish event whilst, you know, Yuki helped. I was like, oh my god, like, just how can you be so like like the lack of self-awareness of people sharing that in actual, like, genuine, like, oh, it's just, how much can you hate a man to expect him to be clearing up in a different, complete fucking country? He's not even there. And apparently George and Alex shared a jogging selfie, so that kind of shows you the levels of the rest of the grid. And obviously, yeah, there was the WhereWasLewisWhen hashtag, which was hilarious. But I think, you know, I just find it like, there's always, whenever I remember someone on Twitter when the Ukraine invasion happened, and then someone was like, well, what's Lewis Hamilton doing for, like, the Ukraine invasion? And it's just like, what is he? Is he a Formula One driver who should concentrate on his driving, or is he literally the biggest diplomat in the world who should be solving world peace, who should be literally like a diplomat, Mother Teresa, maybe a bit of like Barack Obama, maybe a bit like all rolled into one? What do you want from him? Those are my thoughts, India. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
Mean, all I have to say is just, where was Lewis when Jesus was hanging from the cross? Where was Lewis? Like, we could go on forever. Like, where? I mean, it's just, like, ridiculous because, yeah, to your point, I feel like people don't really know where they stand with Lewis. It's like they want to hate him so much, but they know they love him, but they hate him. They want to try so hard to, like, hate him and, like, pick on every little thing that he does. And it's like, you have such double standards because you're not saying this to other people on the grid. You know, where was George Russell? He was jogging with Alex. Where was anyone else? But yet, when it comes to Lewis, he just has to be like this omnipresent person, just like everywhere, all at once. It's like, come on, guys, you just hate him. Just admit that you hate him because he's black. Like, just say how it is, and we can get over it.
Please, that's it. Like, I just sick of tired of this shit. Just please, just admit that you don't like him because he's black and he's handsome and he's rich and he's the best driver in the sport, and that makes you annoyed. And on top of all that, he's a lovely guy. He's just a lovely guy. He cares about animals. He cares about diversity and inclusion. He cares about world events. And within that, you're still trying to find something wrong with him. It's pathetic.
And I think, like, I saw, like, there was a tweet or, like, multiple tweets of people saying there was a difference between how certain teams talked about the situation. So, like, AlphaTauri obviously was, like, on the ground. So, like, they were, like, you know, posting about it a lot more. They were more affected by it versus teams like Red Bull being like, I forgot what the tweet was, but it was something kind of like low-key insensitive if you like took it in that context of like the mechanics on the Red Bull team being like, oh, it's 100% like cheating or something like that. I forgot what.
I think it was an Instagram story post. An Instagram story post of one of the mechanics. I think as they were on their way out, they were dragging their suitcase or something, and he said, yeah, super wet. Wow, Red Bull again. It's crazy, right? You know, you're talking about TikTok. I did a video about Red Bull and Max, and, you know, I remember saying, like, this whole team is, like, the most. It's like from top to bottom, you can't even say it's like a bad apple. The whole tree's fucking rotten. The whole orchard's rotten. Honestly, how could you, in your mind, be dragging your suitcase safely out of somewhere, most likely onto some kind of chartered flight to safety, out of a literal environmental disaster, and then say, well, yeah, super wet, in brackets, because you've got to leave a race safely and go back to whatever, you know, go back to whatever life you're doing. You're off to Monaco. You're literally off to the most pampered, fucking lovely place in the world.
Yeah.
The self-awareness is on zero.
And it's like, I think when they posted that too, I was like, because I arrived in Italy on Tuesday. So that was when the flood started happening, and it was already like pretty bad. So I think if they posted that story, I don't know the timestamp, but if they did post it like around that time, like you see how bad it is, and then you tweet and then you post that on your Instagram story. Like it's kind of messed up, you know? So, you know, I agree. Like it is, you know, there's a lack of empathy there because it really did devastate so many people. And I wouldn't be posting like it's super wet, you know, like whatever. Like I wouldn't be posting that. I was nervous. I was like shitting my pants when I was there. So I don't know. I think you're muted, Nyasha.
I am. So bad. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah. Brad, when he was too polite to like, so he just let me like kind of talk for ages, and then after like 30 seconds, like, oh, I think you're on mute, yeah, shut up. Well, thanks, Brad. No, shout out, Brad, because I know you're listening now at some point. But no, yeah. Look, I'm happy that you're safe. I'm happy that whoever you're with was safe as well, and everyone. And obviously, yeah, we only wish everyone the utmost safety in the Emilia Romagna region. I was lucky enough to be around there. 2017, I took a solo trip to Italy. I went to Bologna. I got a train specifically to go and see the Senna mural at the Imola track, and I had a bit of a wander around Imola, and it's a gorgeous area, and it's honestly one of the most beautiful areas I've ever been to in the world, let alone in Italy. And yeah, it's such a shame what's happened there, and we'll put some information in the description for any kind of, like, if you guys want to donate to that, if you want to kind of help the people who are on the ground there, then we'll put information down below for that. So India,
yes,
obviously, I'd say last year, by the time, have you watched the Monaco Grand Prix before?
I don't think I tuned into it live. I think I like came into the fandom shortly after. I think my first
I was gonna say
stream I watched was Japan. The one that I actually tuned into was Japan, I think.
The first race you tuned into was Japan? Yeah,
I think so.
That's crazy. Oh my god, you've got so many new things to experience. This is crazy. That's so cool. That's really cool. So look, it is your first Monaco Grand Prix. How do I mean, from what you've seen, what are you looking forward to before I talk about Monaco?
I'm looking forward to see like all the upgrades on the cars finally. I think we were supposed to get that in Imola, but we didn't. And so looking forward to see like if these upgrades on the cars actually improve, you know, the drivers' like performances. And I also, it's so funny because when I was on the flight back home to New York yesterday, I was watching the live stream of the 2008 Monaco Grand Prix.
Oh, okay. Nice.
To it, but like every time I woke up low key, I was like, oh my god, this person crashed into this person, and like this person's front wing was clipped, and all this craziness. I think I'm just expecting lots of drama to happen in Monaco. I think I really, after seeing the 2008 like Monaco Grand Prix, for example, I want more drama in our races this season. I want more like craziness. I want more like clippings of front wings and stuff. Not to say like putting drivers in dangerous spots necessarily, but like, of
course, never
just drama. I think I want more drama, if that makes sense. So drama. I'm excited to see kind of like who makes the top, which I'm hoping it's not Max, but you know, I'm hoping that it's one of those races where anything can happen. Like I really hope that it is that race that things happen. Anything can happen.
So, you know, 2008 Monaco is a classic. Okay, I think Lewis won. He did, he hit his tire on the barrier and then he had to come into the pits and there's people crashing. It was raining, it wasn't raining. Let me tell you, I mean, look, I'm not going to ruin your idea of the Monaco Grand Prix, but...
Like, give me the bad news. I'm ready.
I felt so bad. What did you say all of that? And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. That is, yeah, look. Monaco is very special. Saturday is going to be exciting because it is the most important qualifying session of the year. It's very difficult to overtake around Monaco, let's just say that. So the order that they start the race in on Saturday could potentially be the order they end up finishing. So to be on pole position is very, very important. But I'm not going to ruin Monaco. I wanted to go in it happy, bushy. I'm like, wow, Monaco, I don't want to take away your innocence. So we'll do that. What things should you look forward to this season? Oh my God. Okay. So if I was to give you like 5 things to look forward to from this season, let me just hold on. And unmute myself. So I think 5 things to look forward to this season. If you're a new fan, what have we got coming up? Okay. So I would say Silverstone coming up in July. Obviously seeing the British support for Lewis. Seeing just that track. It's one of, I would say, 4 or 5 tracks on the circuit where normally it's always a good race because you're able to overtake and it's really good. So definitely Silverstone in July. Slightly recently Hungary, cheap to go to as well and I think there's still tickets for people looking to go. Tiny twisty track, but also draws up some classic racing, so we'll see what happens there. Brazil coming up. Did you watch Brazil last year?
I did.
Are you there? Because I was quite late. So yeah, Brazil, always awesome. Monza is the second Italy track. That's where like the Ferrari main track. So obviously we didn't get to see Imola this year, but the support for Ferrari at Italy is awesome. And then also, have you ever seen Crazy Rich Asians?
Yes, I have.
So they race around the Singapore track where that boat is, I think, where they get married. They race around that circuit there, so you'll see that. And that's a nice bit of trivia for you. Off the top of my head, 5 things. Enjoy that. Take that with you. But no, thank you. I guess if there's one thing you'd want to see as a new fan this season, or just as a fan of the sport, like what's one thing you're really holding out hope for?
First of all, Lewis on podium, please. Lewis on podium. I think when I went to Austin last year, he was on podium and I was so happy. Okay. And so I think just seeing him on podium would help me go through the rest of the season with hope. And I think also just I think this is around the time we're starting to see a lot of rumors with the drivers. They were saying like Nick DeVries is going to get replaced possibly, and like all these people. So I think just like the drama of it all, I'm like so into drama. So like I love like speculations. Like I want to see like, is Daniel Ricciardo going to come back and like blah blah blah. Like I'm curious personally to see what's going to happen and what moves teams are going to make. But no, I think honestly, if I'm being honest, like I guess the number one thing I'm hoping for is that if Red Bull is going to dominate the season, which they most likely are, and they are right now, I kind of want to see Checo take over and kind of like surprise us and kind of like really be neck and neck with Max. I kind of want to see him win the championship. if I'm honest.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So who knows? Yeah, I think that's like the main thing I'm hoping for. But I want to see Yuki and the points this season.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
Alex, I want Alex in the points as well because I have a soft spot for Alex too. So hopefully they get some points.
Yeah, no, look, I also, you know, like, Alex used to drive for Red Bull, obviously, and he used to be in the Red Bull cab. So obviously, like, he had that stench on him. I couldn't really like him, but but now he's fresh. He's had a word. You know, you can see he's dyeing his hair. He's growing into his own personality. He's doing great at Williams. I like my drivers are Lewis Hamilton, Yuki Tsunoda, and Alex Albon. Like, those are my three drivers. I support those guys. So for me, seeing Alex Albon do well at Williams is awesome. Seeing Yuki do so well and be so consistent is awesome. And I think you can see both of them kind of growing into themselves as these personalities, as these, you know, future brands. And I think it's awesome. Awesome to see that. So awesome. I think that is a lovely place to end it. Thank you so much, India, for coming on the show. Oh my God, how lovely was that?
Thank you so much for having me.
No, that's fine. The actual applause lasts for like 36 seconds. It's like in Cannes, where they're just clapping, man, for like minutes and minutes on end, and it's just like you can just see their faces like. Enough now. Okay, I don't want to put you through that, but if I could, I would applaud you for minutes on end. Thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you online, and where can people find your work? I guess it's all over. But where can people find your F1 work, I guess?
Yeah. So I write about F1 for Nylon magazine. So just go on nylon.com and, you know, just type in Formula One in the search bar and you'll see like most of the bylines are mine. And then if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's India_Roby, ROBY. And then I also have Instagram, which is India and then JDE. So yeah, just follow me, hit me up, whatever. I don't care. So yeah.
Hit me up, whatever. I don't care. I love it. And hopefully see you at Austin.
Yes, I hope so. Prayers up.
Hopefully. Prayers up. Well, look, you've been an incredible guest, and thank you genuinely for all the support and helping to push our podcast. It means the world. It really does, especially given you're like on the other side of the world. So, well, pond. So thank you so much. It's really appreciated. And thank you guys at home. If you've been watching, let us know in the comments. Big up all the YouTube commenters, actually. I never actually thank you guys, but you guys are always there commenting. I love interacting with you guys down there. If you're watching this, don't be shy. Comment on the ting, bruv. Also, leave us a like and subscribe. 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcast review. If you don't like any of the adverts, sign up to the Patreon. Bear shit on there. We will see you later this week for a Monaco Grand Prix race preview. This race is... You know what? India's still here. I'm not even going to get into it. We'll discuss my thoughts on the Monaco Grand Prix in the preview pod, which I'll be doing with Mario. So thank you to you guys at home. Remember, no matter what life throws at you, keep it on the black stuff. Toodle pip. Goodbye. Look, mate, if you've got this far, clearly you like what we do. So here's a link to subscribe to the Cult of F1 family. Give that a click. And here's another link to some more cool on our channel. Sorry, cool stuff. And remember, no matter what happens, keep it on the black stuff. Click the stuff. Click the links. Click the links. Click the links. There. They're there.